referring to the prince of Rome like it refers to the prince of Persia in another chapter. Gabriel talks about him struggling with the prince of Persia, talking about principalities like powers, spiritual powers. And I think that's what it's talking about, the prince who is to come, the prince of Rome. And they shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And in the year 70 AD, the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed by the armies of Titus. And in, I think it was 135 AD, as a result of the Bar Kokhba revolt, the whole city was destroyed. And it says, and the end of it shall be with a flood. Now, when it talks about a flood, that can be interpreted as a dispersion of the people. And actually, in the Aramaic Peshitta version, it actually says, and the end of it shall be with a dispersion. Okay, until the end of the war, desolations are determined. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Then he shall confirm a covenant, and this is the part that's really confusing to most people. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. Okay, usually this is interpreted as Antichrist will confirm a covenant with the Jews, or a treaty with Israel for 1 week. And this is supposed to be broken off from the other 69 weeks as like the 70th week, which represents a 7-year period. And that's where they get the 7 years that they talk about, and coincides with the stuff in Revelation. But this is the 70th week, and nowhere in the Bible will you find chronological prophecies where the prophetic clock stops for a period of 2,000 years and then picks back up again. You won't see that anywhere in prophecy. When it says 70 weeks, it means 70 consecutive weeks. That's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so the actual person who this is referring to, if I'm not mistaken, is Jesus Christ. It says, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. Okay, so a week represents 7 years here. In the middle of the week would be 3.5 years, which corresponds to Jesus' earthly ministry. In the middle of that week, at the end of the 3.5 years, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And he did that by his sacrifice on the cross. And in fact, the Christians, after that point, did not have to make sacrifices and offering, because Jesus did bring that to an end. Now, the Jews continued to do so, but with the destruction of the temple, that was done away with. Period. Okay, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolate. When Jesus was lamenting over Jerusalem, he said, your house is left to you desolate. And the consummation that it's talking about here, that'll be poured out on the desolate, I believe corresponds to what's in verse 26, talking about the dispersion. Because it says the end of it shall be with a flood or dispersion. And that's what the 70 weeks has to do with. The people going back and rebuilding the city, and that time in between then and Jesus coming, Jesus bringing an end to the old things, reconciliation to God, an end of the sacrifice and offering, which he performed once for all, and the taking away of even the ability of the people to continue on in that old way. One more thing I forgot to mention is the other 3.5 days or 3.5 years of the prophecy. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it has to do with Jesus confirming continuing to confirm the covenant by his Spirit through his disciples in Jerusalem, which leads to the utter rejection of Jesus and his message and his covenant by the Jewish leaders, and of course is the end result is their house being left to them desolate, the destruction of the temple, and eventually the destruction of the city in 135 AD.